Hi Blender fans and welcome to Blender CC. In today's tutorial we're going to actually make ourselves a tunnel. So we'll just scale this down because we're going to be using the cube in our tunnel. But first of all, this is a step-by-step tutorial, so I'm just going to scale down the cube by pressing the S key and scaling it down to the size I wish by moving my mouse. And then I'm going to add in a mesh, and I'm going to add in curve, and the curve will be a circle. I'm just going to scale this circle up by pressing the S key and moving my mouse. Actually, go into edit mode by pressing the tab key, A to select all, and we're going to subdivide this once and then twice. In fact, let's subdivide it 3 times. So we've subdivided our circle by 3, and what we're going to do now is actually hit proportional editing, G and Z, things about. As you can see, we've got a circle of influence there, so if I grow the circle of influence, what that does is actually smooths out the curve. For this tutorial we'll need quite smooth curves, move things out until I've got some quite round smooth curves. As I'm doing this at different angles, this means that our tunnel will go up and down and have little dips and little turns, and like I said, the more gentle the curve is, the better it will look in our animation. Tab takes us back to edit mode because I think that will do for our tunnel shape. What we've got there is we've got the actual cube. What I want to do is make this cube follow round on our pathway, so go to the thing that looks like a bicycle chain down here on the icons, add object constraint, and what we're going to do is go follow. Right, so we've hit follow path, hit the X. I'll just make this a bit wider so we can see it. I'm just going to do something else. So hit the X, hit the Z, and then follow the curve. But we haven't got a target yet, so we're going to actually select the target, which is going to be our breezer circle. And as we hit our spacebar now, as you can see, our cube doesn't move, and that's because we haven't animated the path yet. So hit animate path, and then if we press the actual spacebar, as you can see, it goes round and round and round. I'm going to increase this to 500 just to give it more frames, just in and out of our animation. The next thing we want to do is make our camera follow our cube around. So shift and left click will take us back to frame 1, and what I want to do is add the object constraint. So into the actual bicycle chain, add object constraint, follow path, and follow curve, change the Z and Z, and animate path. Oops, for some reason that's gone unfixed and we haven't selected the breezer circle. So got our camera, and as you can see, our camera's all over the place, and that's because we forgot to do one thing. And what we forgot to do is actually set the origin of the camera. This is something that's not covered in many tutorials, but it really does help. So remember, if you actually want to send something along a path, you need it to actually start at origin 0. So if we actually go on N and we put 0, 0 and 0, as you can see, the origin has now gone to follow the cube. The reason the cube did it is because its origin was 0 to start with. When it comes to moving the light onto this path, I'll show you us doing that now. So what we've got is we've got a cube following the path, got a light following the path, and next we're going to actually have a light following the path. The reason we need a light following the path is because when we actually create a tunnel, if there's no light, or no light can get in, then the tunnel would be pitch black. So we're going to actually make this light follow this pathway that makes up our tunnel. Like I said, what we're going to do is 0 the light into the center there. 0, 0. As you can see, it's the Z, 0. So now the light is in the center as its location is 0, 0, 0. Hit the bicycle chain, add a constraint, follow path, and then you go X, Z, follow the curve, and make sure you set it to breezer circle. So now we've got three things that are in exactly the same place. Select your camera again. You can do it up there, or you can actually just click on it, select your camera, and what we've got a thing called offset on your influence here. So what you can do is offset this so it's behind the cube like so, but it's not pointing at the cube. So let's add in a constraint, and the constraint we're going to do is track 2, and we're going to make it point at a target 2. I want it to target at the cube. So it's now looking at the cube and it's following it. So if we actually look through the camera, as you can see, we are now following the cube with our camera. Let's just set some things up on the camera. If we click on camera, as you can see, the view is 100 meters, which would not actually be looking very far on our scene because everything's been scaled up quite big. So I'm just going to change that to 1000 meters actually. So I've changed that to 1000 meters, and I'm going to change the focal length of my camera down to 25 because that'll look better on our tunnel. We'll maybe come back and retouch this later on so you can see the effect of the camera, but that'll be towards the end of the video. Next, of course, we've got the light. Let's just go on the bicycle chain. I'm going to offset the light. So we're going to call this one, we'll call this the object light. Object light. We'll just call it light object. So this one will illuminate object there. So if we go into its properties, we can actually change the colour. Oh, you can't see it because we need to actually go into render mode. Just there, we can actually change its properties so it lights up our scene, and of course it will light up our tunnel. I'm just going to change it to like a bluey tinge because I think it's going to be an icy tunnel that we're actually going down. So, icy-ish. Right. So we've got our light going down the tunnel, and let's just stop it there. So pressing spacebar stops it, shift and left clicking takes it to the front, and let's make our tunnel. So it's better to actually look from the top by pressing the 7 key to make our tunnel, just to give us an overview. And we're going to add in in fact we're just going to duplicate the breezer circle, shift and D, and it's renamed it breezer circle 01, but we're going to actually change that to tunnel, just to actually remember it's our tunnel. And I think we'll change the breezer circle to, we'll call it a path, yeah, just to make it easier to see. So we've now got our tunnel, and all we need to do is actually click on the little smiley face, green face, geometry, and go down to make sure this is on round, and increase this to a size you like the look of. And if I actually press the 0 key, I'm now looking through my camera, and because we've got a light in our scene, you can see that it's casting that shadow going forward, but it's also highlighting our scene. As you can see, this is quite jagged round here, so I'm just going to add in modifier, and the modifier is going to be a subdivision modifier. I'm just going to take that up to 3, and as you can see, that really makes it chug along. So if you know that your pathway is, if you know that your tunnel scape is going to be this shape, it's a bit easier if we do this the other way around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that, click on the tunnel, and then go into object and convert this into a mesh object. I'll just go on wireframe so it can show you just what this actually does. So object, convert to a mesh object. We do this because if we want to add a modifier, as you can see, the modifier list there is very short, and the thing we need is in this list here. So I'm gonna, as you can see, that's this tunnel. But what we're going to do is add a modifier, or modify this and make it into a mesh object. So let's do that. So object, convert to a mesh. Converting a mesh will now open up more things on this panel. As you can see, it's a bigger list, and it'll also let us subdivide this and still keep the speed. So subdivision surface, 1, 2, 3. As you can see, we've still got the speed, even if we put it into render mode. And what we can do now is apply this. So we've got our tunnel, a simple tunnel, but it just looks like a plug hole or something, or just something that's gone down the rabbit hole. All smooth and everything. And that's not what we want for this tutorial. We want like a cavey type, icy, burnt out hole, or I don't know, but we don't want that. So what we're going to do is add in another modifier, and we're going to add in a thing called the displace modifier. And that, as you can see, has made a right old mess, and that's because we need to actually tweak some of the settings of it. We're going to actually put in new. And as you can see, it now makes a texture. But what if you do, if you go to these two little sliders at the side here, click on those, and we're not going to use image or movie, but you could do. We're going to actually use a cloud formation. I'm going to set the cloud formation to color, and I'm going to take the size up to 1, just to make it back into a tunnel. As you can see, this is not a very good tunnel, and that's because it's the Blender original. What I'm going to actually select is a different image format, and just let me stop the animation, and I'm going to select Verona 2. And as you can see, Verona 2 makes a much more cave-like image. But this is a bit fast, isn't it? It's just going around this about 5 times. It's actually going around it, and that's because we haven't altered one of the settings. So if we go into the actual little printer here, and we look down here, we've got a thing called frame range, which is soft and shut. So you open it up, and you've got a thing called time stretching. If we go into time stretching, that is 100 frames, so it'll go round the 500 frames in increments of 100, so that means it would go round 5 times through the 500. So if we change this to a new value of 500, what then happens is that our transition, or our effect, slows down quite a lot, and we're actually just going down the rabbit hole forever. Don't know what you could use this for, but it's quite a nice effect. So press the spacebar just to stop there. There's quite a few other things that you can actually do. If you go right down here to the actual checkered flag and click in the checkered flag, we can actually turn this to 0.02, which will make it very spiky, should do. Which is another effect. And controlling this, making it bigger, depends how smooth or jaggedy things are. Right, if you want to actually make the walls wet, what you can actually do is add in a image, add in a texture, and let's give it a colour. It's up to you what colour you do it. I'll just put it a bit on the pinky side. and we can actually add some metal, which will actually make it more reflective. And of course we can add some, take away some roughness. It'll make it a lot shinier, like that. So let's just change something else. What we'll do is we're going to make it much shinier. What we can do is we'll just add the ambient occlusion to it, make it bloom, screen space reflections, open this up, include refractions, and simplify just to make it work things out quicker. And as you can see, that's improved it quite a lot just by doing them few things. There we have it. That's quite good. I think that light's a little bit too bright though, so go into light properties and I'm going to change that to 40 watts, and that makes for a eerie picture. So let's start adding some lights. It's up to you how many lights you actually add. Object. It's entirely up to you. So I'm just going to Shift and D just to duplicate the right light. Press Enter, and what we can do is then go into the object constraints and we can change its position. So I can change its position. I'm going forward there. So the second light we've created it and we're changing its position, and I'm going to make it quite a bit brighter. So that means that it casts some interesting shadows, because the shadows is enabled on here. You can actually enable contact shadows. So the contact, as you can see, the light actually casts lengthening shadows when it's needed. You know, you can see one lengthening there and there and there. Then we'll just add one more light. Shift and D. Shift and D. You need to be hovering over the screen. Press Enter to fix it. And what I'll do is we'll just go into Object Constraints, fetch it towards me, fetch it back, so we can cast some shadows from behind as well, just to make it more interesting, and change the colour. To anything you wish. Another thing we can actually do is we can actually go back into the tunnel. We can actually go back into the actual preferences there, change the Verona to say Verona 3, which actually changes it again. Change it down to 0. As you can see, that makes for an absolutely totally different kind of image. And just by adjusting lights and colours. In some of the scenes I've added as many as 12 lights to actually cast different shadows and things around it. 4. There's a different one again. And you can make things look all sorts of different ways. Or just Control and Z just to actually undo them back to the way we had them, which is there. In the object, Verona 2, select colour, 0, 4, 5. A bit too rough that. 0.09. Change it to 1. Point 2. Get a little bit smoother. And the other thing you can do for this actual image, if you actually look from the side here, say you wanted some water to actually appear in your scene, say along here, so you could just add in a mesh, add in a plane for instance, scale it up, G and Z just to move it down, add a new texture, oops sorry did that wrong, add a new texture, make it a totally reflective surface, take the roughness down to next to nothing, and we should see the water or the floor appear. There we are. That's a cool effect as well. That light is a bit too reflective, so I'm just going to move that forward, just round the corner. Like that. You can even offset lights by adjusting the X and the Y for even differing effects. Pick it up in the Z. To even get even eerier effects. We can just move it back into shot. Just move it just above the water. And last but not least, let's just add in a quick fog effect. So this is the fog effect. Let's just add a quick fog effect in. So I'm just going to add in another cube. Let's just actually rename this cube as, we'll call it the target object. Because I just don't want to get confused. So add in a mesh and just a cube. So I've created a cube. If we look from the top, we've got a cube. I'm just going to scale it up like that. So the cube's now all around us and covering our whole scene. And then you can add different volumetric effects by adding a volumetric shader. Going into new, volumetric scattering, take the density down, 2, and then finally all we need to do is actually go into the shading, move it down to volumetric, and maybe add in a Musgrave texture or something like that, or a magic texture, depending on what you want to do. And just alter a few of the actual things in there. I've changed that to a hybrid, and I've changed it to 4D. And just add in a bit more fog. And if we actually increase this, you can see the fog changing. It's probably easier from outside to see it actually, so let's just hit the 7 key. As you can see, yeah, you've got the actual fog. Not exactly very easy to see. Let's just put it onto there. That's a bit easier to see. As you can see, you've got the fog. Pressing the 7 key, and what you can do is alter these settings, which will actually change the shape of your fog. And if we render that picture out, as you can see, again a very interesting foggy effect, but it's patchy. The reason it's patchy is because we wish it to, because it's in a cave. And so we've got the water in the cave, the patchy fog, a few lightings that's casting shadows in the fog. And let's just alter some things round, so make that up to maybe as high as 11. Maybe take this detail up to 5. So a little, maybe higher. That's set to about 8.8. So we'll look at that. What's that look like? I'll render it. That's quite mystical, isn't it? So all we need to do now to actually finish our scene off is to render it into our scene. So hit your printer here, and this is where you actually decide where you're going to actually put it. You might want to just actually save it to your desktop. So in that case, you can actually just select your desktop. Me personally, I'm going to actually put it into different files. So I'm just going to put this into my cube tunnel file, and at the end of this render, I'll show you some of the actual renders I've done to make different effects, but they're all about the same. So I'm just going to select that bookmark there, accept. So this gives it that pathway. You can give it a name when you go in here if you want as well. So I can call it tunnel. I'll call it 15 because I've done loads of these and I just don't want to cross over on what right over one I've already done. And I'm just going to accept. But as you can see, that's going to do it to ping image. So you'd end up with 500 ping images. We don't want 500 ping images. I just want one MP4. So FFmpeg video. That's selected on there, and the encoding I've got set to there. H224, which is actually normal MPEG. And there's different settings in here. I'll just leave them on screen for a few seconds just so you can actually see them if yours not set up yet correctly on your system. Right, so let's render it out. Render animation. This takes some doing. I don't know what the weather's like around you, but it's a pretty miserable day here, so that's why I've decided to sit down and do a new tutorial. And I'm approaching 1,000 subscribers, so give it a look. By the time this video is released, I'm already there. And then I just need to actually get some watch time into things. So join me on Blender TC. If you enjoyed my tutorial, please subscribe. And don't forget, hit like and ring the bell. And then you'll never miss another tutorial on my channel again. It's quite complex to actually come up with some of these tutorials, and I need quite a bit of practice before I actually hit that record button. 2 weeks is about right to actually do my next tutorial. So coming soon to you from Blender TC, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye for now.